I like to at least detach when I'm here and be present. And I think that's something
Mm.
that really keeps me on ground. I would say like grounded. To this day, I still I get so excited to be live in a stadium. Right? It's like, again, that energy is really unique.
Welcome to Football Business TV. I'm delighted to be joined by a good friend of mine, multiple Emmy Award winning broadcaster, Diego Arrioja. Diego, how are we?
Yeah, good. And you? Thank you for having me, man. Exciting to get to chat and get this going.
Yeah, no, really pleased you managed to make the time, especially during your family downtime, which is a rarity, as we always see you, as we mentioned off camera, hopping on and off planes every couple of days from various weathers, looking at various sports as well. So, yeah, I'm really pleased we managed to find the time.
No, anytime. I mean, I'm glad we were able to find some time. And yeah, to your point, it's been a crazy year. It's gonna get crazier with 2026 and the World Cup coming. But I can't complain, man. I'm doing what I love and my passion. So definitely, in that sense, also it's always good to have some downtime and talk with friends. That's really important as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's always a lot easier when you're doing something that you love to get through those Monday mornings or those freezing cold airports on the way to New York or somewhere. But yeah, completely feel your pain. We're gonna jump in, keep it nice and lighthearted, as we said, and cover a bit about you, what you do, who you are, your background, all of those things. But yeah, really looking forward to this. I think most people know you from ESPN, and certainly your work in both footballs, I guess, is probably what you're best known for. I won't ask you to choose a favourite because that might be a bit unfair. Although I'd probably guess what the answer might be. But you've worked across radio, TV, streaming, MLS coverage, obviously. How have you seen the kind of fan engagement space develop in the time that you've been working in broadcasting?
So that's a really good question, Mac. I think, I think I seen a transition, right? So when I started back in 20, I really started in 2012 with a radio show when I came to the US, called Latin Food. That was like my little project that I had. It actually started as a blog. It was called Latin Food because I used to write about Latino players in Europe, in the US, like really strictly soccer. But then I had this opportunity. I met this person, part of life that you meet sometimes the right person at the right time, that was
Yeah,
managing the ESPN radio in Seattle, and that's how I really started, right, my venture in media. Obviously, I studied journalism in Spain, and that's my passion. But that's how I really started, and then I got into ESPN through a contest, a nationwide contest called Dream Job, that they were looking for a reporter for the Brazil World Cup. And it's funny because to answer to your question, right, at that time, social media was really just like really starting, right? Like Twitter was the main platform that was like really sounding. Instagram was not even a thing at that time.
mm,
Um, and my goal, so when I won this contest, I was the social media reporter in Brazil, right? And it was so different to what we currently have with TikTok, Reels and everything. But it was really like a lot of tweets. Like my role was, I was part of every show during the schedule of the World Cup and the broadcast at ESPN. But I would come in and talk about like what was trending. Would talk about like what players were posting and all that stuff. So I seen like that. I would say big change of engagement of how people nowadays, especially younger generations, they really, the way they consume content is not really like the old like cable TV, right, or broadcast.
yeah,
Now you have basically different channels that and different engagement type of engagements and different type of audiences as well. Like there's still people that will watch your show, your TV show, or your broadcast on linear, as we call it. But then now you have a whole different spectrum of people engaging through social media, or you're only watching specific reels of your show. So I think it's really, it has evolved a lot since I started in media, and it's now becoming a, I would say, like a monster with different heads, and you need how
Yeah,
it's really hard to navigate through that, right? Like if you don't have the experience, and also even if you have the experience, I think no one has the right formula. I think you need to keep testing, even like to this day for me, like as an example with my own social media. I always try different things because some work, some stop working, and then you need to try, the way you communicate to people and different like
yeah,
video styles. So I think we're still in that evolution, but definitely it has evolved to this type of knowing, and when you portray your content to understand the audience that you're targeting, right? I know that's a
yeah.
long-winded answer, mate.
No, no, it makes sense. I think because it's always evolving as well, right? So it's changing constantly. So I find myself when I catch up with something, I think, oh, that works, and then next week it might not.
Yeah.
So I think probably in your line of work, it's gone from, and I'm probably a bit older than you as well. So it's gone from match day reporting, and you mentioned the blog, and I'm not even sure my 17-year-old daughter would know what a blog is.
Yeah.
Um, but you've gone from match reports to now. I think you find that your job has to carry a narrative as well. What,
Mhm.
what what do you think helps to you've got a very good social media following, and you've done most of that work yourself, right? Forgetting your work with ESPN, it's about who you build the audience to like and understand who you are. What do you think makes a fan or a group of fans latch on to a particular reporter?
Yeah, I mean that I think it comes to what first of all, I think you need to have your own I would say like your own branding in a way that you need to
Yeah,
build over time. And I think I'm still building it, to be honest. Like I think now that I really have my I would think my profile would say, I would put it like this way, to your point, like you started with introducing me with doing like both footballs. I mean, I've done that since ESPN. To your point, I used to do Monday Night
yeah,
Football, college football as well, and soccer, or the real football as you guys call it, or I call it football. It's the same thing.
yeah. Of course, yeah,
My whole life, because I played, and that's like my main sport in that sense. I mean, it's not a secret, I think, because that's what I've been breathing and living through my whole life. But I
yeah,
think for me in particular, and my branding is like I'm able to. Um, I think now people see me like, oh yeah, you do both, right? Like, hey, you can do NFL, about the NFL or like American football, but also soccer, and it's like something that I really started from the early days, right? In ESPN in particular too. Like I used to cover, starting my coverage on NFL as well as doing soccer. So it's like I think what I'm trying to still build is that unique perspective of, hey, I'm a reliable source that knows
mm,
how to report in different sports, and in particular American football and football. And I think that even like in an event that happened in Miami that of, they were asking me like, hey man, I saw you interviewing Patrick Mahomes, right? And it's like, and that resonates a lot. And it's like, oh yeah, this is the guy who's on the sideline and can do football, and can do American football as well. So I think it's yeah, it's something that I think constantly for me. I'm trying to work on my branding, but trying to also create stories for the audience to latch on. And to your
yeah.
point, also one of the things that I would say I'm trying to build, and I've been doing this even when I when my in my YouTube channel, is like one of my passions is traveling, right? So every time I travel, and now I travel every 3-4 days for work.
You might lose some of that passion now.
Yeah, yeah. But it's more about now telling that story, and I'm doing this like now little segments on social media about, it's called the tour, like tour with Diego Arrioja. So now I'm doing NFL specifically, but I'm doing like different little stories. Like if I'm, for example, I was in Philly last weekend, and I was just walking around, and then I saw there was like this ice skating rink, and all like Christmas, theme. And I was like, oh, this is
No,
probably worth like some content. So I just started recording myself, like, hey, if you're in Philly, come to the Christmas market, blah blah, during this time. And then I just put like some skates, and I started like skating, and I just like recorded the whole thing, right? Really simple, but I think now it's one of those things that I think actually works in terms of engagement, because I think at the end of the day, I'm a regular dude, like just likes to, I'm doing like a really cool job for sure, but also I like
yeah,
to enjoy myself and explore the city. So I'm trying to also portray like that, you know, regular guy that can also have fun, right? And then at night we'll go to the stadium and be serious on camera and everything, but also, getting that human aspect. I think that's been helping me a lot in terms of getting that, engagement and those fans that really, follow me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I deal with broadcasters all over the world, and I think you're easily one of the more personable. There are lots of very good broadcasters out there for sure, but you're one of my favourites for different reasons, and I enjoy watching your Instagram stories as well as knowing you personally as well, which is great. And people want to know the person behind the mic as well, don't they? Now, I think where social media has made people so accessible, I think everybody wants everybody to be accessible. I'm sure that your love and enjoyment of both footballs certainly help from a credibility perspective in the US as well, because even the people that love soccer will, probably initially love, American football, right? So I think being able to talk both languages certainly helps.
Yeah, mate. So that helps a ton, and I think, yeah, to be, I think also one of the things that is really hard is to be yourself or be authentic, right? And I think that's one
Yeah.
of the biggest challenges that we see with all the content creators nowadays. Like there's a lot, and not trying to generalize, but I think there's a lot of content out there that people try to do things just to be someone, or you do something that they're not really themselves, right? Just to get the attention, or get the engage, get the clicks, or get the likes, etc. I think that's also, um nowadays, because there's so much content out there, it's like a dangerous
Mhm.
like line as well that you need to learn how to navigate. For me, it's like I always been clear about, I think, who I am and what I want to portray. And I mean, and we know each other in person too. Like, I think, and again, this doesn't happen because I've been in media for a while, and a lot of people have their own like character or personality on camera, and then
Yeah.
out of, the camera's off, and it's like completely different person, right? Even
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of
I've met a few of those.
yeah, I mean, I have a lot of colleagues that are like that. I'm like, okay, I mean, that's fine, but for me, it's like for me, like, what I always thought about myself is I want to be me, right? Like, in front of
Mhm.
the camera, and also when I'm not on camera, I'm the same guy, right? Just talking sports, or telling stories. But to me, I think that's also what I'm strive to be. Like, I don't want to be like a different, personality that, again, it's like a Diego in on TV or on camera, then it's like a
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
different person. So to me, it's try to be authentic. And again, it's not easy, because you see all the time this, like, there's competition, obviously, and you see content out there, and like, oh yeah, I could do that, but then it's like, is that really, what I want to do? Or like these,
yeah.
trends about like dancing, like, you know what I mean, like stupid trends.
Yeah,
And
100%,
a
yeah.
lot of people do it, and like, for me, it's like, I mean, I don't know. Like, if I really think it would be funny, or like, again, authentic, I'll do it, but not just to be, to go with the trend, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. You wanna be Diego behind the mic and Diego wearing ice skates, right? You wanna be the same guy, so,
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And to me, it's like, I mean, it's funny because it's like, I'm one of those dudes. Like, I mean, I've always been like this. Like, I want to do a lot, like, not everything, but like, when I don't know. It's like, since I was a kid, I want to, like, yeah, I want to learn how to ice skate. I want to learn how to play hockey, even though I didn't know anything, right? And I always try new things, to this date, and I think it's something that I also want to show. Like, you can do it. Like, I'm not like a pro ice skater, but I can, I can skate. It's not like I'm be
you
falling.
didn't lose any fingers, so that's
No,
good.
exactly. Yeah, exactly, right. So it's like, it's one of those things. For example, now, since I moved to the US, I became like snowboarder as an adult. I really learned as an adult, right? So it's like
Okay.
one of those things that now I go every year, and I love it. But it's like a also like showing people too, and I think this is a good way that you can do things no matter the age, and I think you can keep
Yeah,
learning, yeah, right? So, and keep learning new things. So something that also, it's cool to show, especially younger kids, or like younger generations, like, yeah, I mean, that's, you can still try and make it happen.
yeah, yeah. I think it's important to show them that it's still okay to be you and authentic as well, right? You don't always have to be two or three or four different personalities to be successful. I think your approach probably leans nicely to what I was thinking about next as well. So fans now want, more access than ever before. They want access to you in the ice skating rink, or you pitch side, or whatever. How difficult is it to to kind of be, yes, I'm Diego, the everyday guy. I'm just one of you. I'm a fan like everybody else. And then actually have that distance between the professionalism that you need to step into when you're, official Diego on the pitch side reporting for ESPN.
I mean, I'm gonna say it's not not easy because I'm a
Mm,
big sports fan, right? So,
yeah,
but I think also with that comes like responsibility of being a journalist at the end of the day, and I think
yeah,
something that really helps is that I mean, I studied for 5 years in Spain, like, my journalism degree, and I think one of the principles about journalism is like when you're working, right, and you're not a
mm,
fan, even though you try to portray obviously as a fan, and you can get that authentic view. But I think it's also that balance of being responsible, right?
yeah.
Trust me, I've been a lot of time, for example, like interviewing like Pat Mahomes a few weeks ago, and I was
Huge.
like, dude, I want to like stick like a selfie, right? But it's like, I mean, I can't do that, right? Also, well, one,
Can you sign my arm?
yeah, exactly. Can you say that? And a lot of friends were like, "Hey, did you get like something like a jersey sign or stuff?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, of course. I wish, man, but I didn't because one, it doesn't look professional because when I'm interviewing, like it's also part of the NFL statutes. You cannot really, as a journalist, like ask for
Mm,
an autograph, right?
yeah.
And three, I think it's also something that I with the experience and getting those experiences, like I think you learn how to at least enjoy the moment, enjoy the
Mm,
conversation, the engagement for that, briefly 5-minute interview. And then, I mean, people take photos. And so in that sense, like you at least get like the, you know,
it
working
happened.
photo, right? And it happened. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's proof. So it's like, it's there.
yeah.
But I think it's hard, man. Not gonna lie. I think, but also one of the things that it's also good nowadays with social media is like showing that also like fan aspect. Like when I'm on the sideline on the pitch, showing with my phone like the atmosphere and like
Yeah,
when you're there it's like it's amazing. And when you go to football games, it's like that energy is unique, right? When you are in a sporting event, it's really hard to describe. And even to this day, with with all the technology that we have, is not the same of like being physically there than showing it on a video. But at least trying to portray that passion and that energy, I like to do it. And that's like the fan, I would say, like fan version of me, is showing to the crowd like, hey, I'm here, I'm excited, like it's like a
yeah,
this is what I live for, right? But yeah, I mean that's definitely, again, it comes with a balance, because I seen a lot of cases, not calling names, but that people would don't care and just take the just for the again for the likes. Hey, I want a
yeah,
selfie, or and then like the players like, okay, whatever. They won't say anything, but also it's like it's not professional at the end of the day, right? So you need to
yeah.
learn when, and I would say when and with who, and sometimes it's possible, yes, right, but also knowing the moment, I guess.
Yeah, and you also want to kind of be in a peer-to-peer situation as well. You don't want them to think that you're just another fan that wants a selfie
Exactly.
or wants a signed jersey that you're going to sell. I have it so much, what I've been doing for a living for a few years, and I've been really lucky to meet some incredible footballers, local legends, some of my heroes, my personal heroes growing up. And yeah, we had pictures taken, but normally, official event photography or whatever. I think most of my friends think I've just got a huge collection of signed jerseys and selfies everywhere. And I didn't, because I didn't want to ask. I met Alessandro Del Piero, and that was a huge one for me because I loved him when he
Hmm.
was a player. And when I met him in Miami, it was just like, oh, great. And then Serie A asked me to take a picture with the trophy, and I was like, yeah, great. And afterwards, I said thank you and walked away. And everyone was like, why didn't you, talk to him and get some signed jerseys? He was like, well, there's 500 people are going to do that between here and the car, so I don't want to be another one of those guys.
Exactly. No, yeah, man. You basically that's what it is, right? And I think when
Yeah,
and yeah, I think a lot of fans or people don't understand when you're in that position, because they say like, I never been with like Del Piero, and obviously if
yeah,
I get a chance to shake his hand, I'm gonna ask for like an autograph or whatever, yeah, right?
yeah,
But I think, yeah, you get in that sense, like with more and more interviews that you do and more people, I think it's like also about respecting not only the player but the person as well, and the time of that person, right?
yeah.
So
I
so
agree.
I think
People overlook a lot of the time that they're human beings, right? And
yeah,
you don't know what mood they're in either. So who wants to be sworn at by one of your heroes?
exactly, yeah. So yeah, but that's actually, yeah, I think it's always again, I'm not saying like everybody does that, because they don't. Like a lot of people don't do,
Yeah.
like a lot of journalists don't do that, or TV personalities. But I think it's good to, for me, like always respecting the person's time, and also, you know, the personality of, what they're showing. So
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Talking about the fans again, and you touched on trying not to get too caught up in certain moments, even if I'm sure you probably commentated on games that you're more interested in than others if you're a fan of that particular club or whatever. Is there a moment throughout your career where you've been caught up in that moment and you thought the fans are really with me, or we're kind of all experiencing the same type of feeling?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, a few occasions. So I'll give you a good experience. I mean, I would say it is a fun and sad experience at the same time. But when I was in Brazil with ESPN in 2014, right? I was doing, yeah, social media, but also I was a reporter for pre-games and post-game stuff, and fan, at the fan zone and etc. So I remember the game between Mexico and the Netherlands. I know you recall that game, but
Yeah,
Mexico was up. Basically, they were winning. They scored. Gio Dos Santos scored finally like a goal with the Mexican national team in a important game. I think it was 56th minute, and Mexico was up until minute, like close to minute 80, right? So they tell me, I was watching it in our headquarters in Rio, where we were doing our shows, and they say, Diego, okay, Mexico is winning. We have 10 minutes left. You're gonna go to the you're gonna go to outside of the stadium and do the reporting, because there's a lot of Mexican fans, blah blah blah. So I was like, oh yeah, I was excited because it's like my team, like finally, Mexico's gonna beat like a big European team in
yeah,
and go to the quarterfinals, like historic, blah blah blah. I jump in the van, and then at the time, again, this is like, it's crazy, like it's 2014, but it's still like connectivity was an issue. Like I had
mm,
a phone, international phone, that I couldn't like check the game, right? So 10 minutes go by the time we arrived to the location. I run and I see there's like this small TV in a bar, and I look at the the score, and it was 2-1. I was like, what the hell? How is this possible? Like in 10 minutes. The script completely, flipped, right? And it was
yeah,
one of those moments that I was like, okay. And then I went on camera when Mexico lost basically that game in 10 minutes. And it was like a deflating experience. Like I was like so pumped, like going
yeah,
in, and like, shit, yeah, wow, it's gonna be exciting. I'm gonna interview fans and my country. And then by the time I go there and see the result and the game ended, it's like, oh wow. I was like, I remember
wow.
that at some point I was like, on camera, but like everything was like, flashing in my head, like, wow, how's it? Well, how did this happen? I'm still
Yeah,
so I tried to kept the energy up, obviously, but it was also like so disappointing too. So it was like,
of course.
and I think in that sense, like fans could see that too, right? Our audience also was in Spanish, a lot of Mexican fans, and I was like, for sure they see I was like completely heartbroken, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So that was tough, man. That's a story that I always tell, because it's funny. Like, I'm even to this day too. I tell my young oldest daughter, who likes soccer, about that story, and she's like, "Why didn't you have your phone? Like it wasn't working. Like just could check your phone." And it's like, well, yeah. I mean, I had a phone, but it was like basically no connectivity.
yeah,
Then like not, I couldn't like. It was like off the grid for like 10 minutes, literally, right? So also with the amount of fans there, you know how things are when there's like a big event and things don't work.
yeah,
But that was tough. Other one was a good story related to that, and how to keep the emotions. Well, at least try my best. It was also the latest World Cup 2022 in Qatar, Mexico Argentina. That Argentina won 2-0 that game, and I was with a lot of colleagues from Argentina, and you know how Argentinians are so passionate about, right?
yeah,
It is one of those moments that we were, again, we got along, but in particular with this, there was a particular person that we were not clicking, or a lot, and he's Argentinian, and he was like one of those moments, like he was being more a fan than a journalist, and celebrating the
wow,
goals in front of my face. So I kept it cool, but on the inside I was like, you know a lot of thoughts through my head, like I want to, yeah, this guy, man. But I had to keep it cool. But I remember like we Mexico ended up losing, but it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, I'm here. They hired me to talk about every team. So yeah, it is what it is. But I remember that internally, it was like, and also they were recording us. We had like a watch party, so it was like my
Uh,
first experience because we were like all sitting in a couch on a couch, and we were like 7 people from different nationalities, and I was sitting next to to the Argentina. There was another Argentinian that I actually work with, and I can say his name. His name is Pablo, that I do the show with, and like he's a great guy. He was actually
yeah,
super respectful, and so with him, there's no issues. He's my buddy. But with that other person, I was like, that this man, like, this is not cool. But anyways, it's it's one of those experiences now. I think, and we see that this more and more, especially like those watch parties that are more like unique, and sometimes your colors will show up, and it's like how to keep it cool. But I guess like also on the other side nowadays, if there's something that people start fighting for a reason, that's also like a viral video, right? So
yeah. I mean, you do numbers.
yeah,
You do
exactly. And then,
numbers.
so obviously from the production side of things, they're looking for that, like that engagement, like, hey, we're they're gonna fight and we're gonna get some.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah,
We
it's
it's difficult because I always say to people, you should never record me. I don't know whether you know, but I'm a Liverpool fan.
Mhm,
And with Irish and English heritage, international football isn't my favourite, but club football. And when we were in Cairo last year, or beginning of this year for Soccer X in Cairo, we had the VIP party was the same night as Liverpool playing away against Manchester City, and if we won, we're probably going to win the league for the first time in front of fans for like 3 decades or
mhm.
whatever, right? And I thought, I'm going to be cool. It's my VIP party. I'm there with speakers and sponsors and local dignitaries. And the goal went in, and I just automatically jumped. And as I jumped up to celebrate, I fell over one of the speakers that was there, and it was the most undignified thing ever. But everybody really enjoyed. Enjoyed me being authentic and actually celebrating the goal rather than just kind of standing there thinking, I better keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, for sure, man. No, but that's, I mean, yeah, and that's cool. I know you were a Liverpool fan for sure. So by the way, congrats, man! You finally did it, no, in front of fans
Yeah,
last,
yeah, finally, and I think we're paying for it this season.
I know, man. It's tough. It's tough. But I do like Liverpool. I have to say, I don't have like a specific team in Premier League, but I would say Liverpool is the one that I've been following for years. So
I love that.
I'm with you, mate. In that sense.
Love that. No, I
Yeah,
appreciate that. We're gonna have a hard season together then.
I know, man. I know. But yeah, no, to me too, like showing the colors, right? Like my club is Club America. It's like the biggest club in Mexico, right? I know
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Soccer they have a booth. I actually now friends with Quentin Paquelier, who's the CMO for America.
yeah, yeah,
He's a really cool dude.
yeah. Nice guy. Yeah,
And to me, that's also, I get the same way with you, right? Like in the emotions, like when America plays, like I either celebrate during, again, I want, if I'm on camera, I try to be as more like consistent with who I am, but
yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
it's inevitable. I kind of have to,
It,
I
it's
can
it's in, it's in there. What can you do?
exactly, mate, exactly.
So
Um,
how do you stay authentic with the fans, and you touched on the Mexico stuff, and everybody kind of could see how you were feeling, and obviously most football fans aren't poker players, right? You can read our
mhm.
emotions pretty easily. How do you maintain that authenticity and avoid kind of a bit of a burnout with what you do? Because I think we touched on doing something that you love, but sometimes that can really overtake and become almost like a labor of love, or a bit overbearing or kind of all consuming. How do you avoid that? How do you keep the enthusiasm to stay authentic and not allow that to happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a word I like to use always is like balance. How, like, my life in balance in general, like keeping that balance with, for example, now I'm at home with my family, with my kids, and when I'm here, I completely detach from my work, right? Like, obviously, I'm a fan, like, so I'm following what's happening, right? Like games
Yeah.
and everything, but I like to at least detach when I'm here and be present, and I think that's something
Mm,
that really keeps me on ground. I would say like grounded in a way, because when I'm back, for example, this weekend I have a game in LA. I'm full force back, right? So I like to also, I think one of the things that that keeps me going, keeps me authentic, is like living that specific moment, but also know when I'm not working, try to detach from work, because at the end of the day, that's the only way I can keep it sane and keep it
Mm,
authentic. If I'm always, and again, I did this mistake when I was in ESPN years ago at the beginning, that I was always hooked on to work, like, you know,
yeah,
7 days a week, tweeting all the time. Back when Twitter was like the thing,
yeah, yeah,
and I remember, like, even my wife, she's like, "Dude, you're crazy! Like, we're having dinner, like, it's stop, right?"
yeah. I know that stuff.
So
I get in
you
trouble for that a
yeah,
lot.
it's like, and now, for example, now it's like, I think now, again, the engagement, and you asked me this question, that's a really good question. Like, I think now engagement is a bit different. I think
Mm,
you don't need to be the first one tweeting or doing something.
yeah, yeah,
Now there's different ways of consuming that content, like, right? Unless you're like Fabrizio Romano, that you know everything, like all the moves, I guess. But
yeah,
if you're like
yeah.
I would say, like, if you're not like an insider per se, you don't really need to be the first one tweeting, because most of the
I
time you're gonna make a mistake. Or so to me, it's, again, I think, to going back to your question, is like how to, really detaching from that, and when you're working, yeah, you're working full force for sure. But then when I'm not, I'll just, step back a little bit and enjoy, and that way I think I enjoy my job more, because
yeah,
when I'm back, I'm fully in, right?
yeah, that makes sense. It's funny because I said to my missus yesterday, I think it was only yesterday, that I've gone from somebody that would watch football 7 days a week, because there's a game on every day now. It's not like when we
Yeah.
were kids, right? It was tough to find a game every day, and there's a game on every day. And I used to watch a game every day, no matter what was on, no matter what the league, it didn't matter. And now I don't do that as much, because it kind of just feels like work. You don't really enjoy the game for just the game. You look at the other things around it. It's probably even
Right.
worse for you from a
Yeah.
broadcaster perspective. But yeah, so I've started to do less of that now. So I just watch my team games, or like a big game on a Sunday or whatever. And actually, I like the NFL too. So I can stay up quite late watching that on a Sunday as well, which is pretty good. But yeah, it's really difficult. So I started doing that this summer, in terms of stepping back a little bit, had a bit of a break, enjoyed the fact there was no football on over the summer, and thought, actually, this is probably a good idea to do this now, ahead of a World Cup year, when there's going to be no break from football
Break.
for God
Yeah.
knows how long. Which, as a kid, I would have prayed for. So I shouldn't take it for granted too much. But um, in terms of your reporting and your experiences, and I won't keep you much longer. I'll let you get back to that well-deserved family time. Is there one highlight for you that stands out so far in your broadcast career?
Wow, that's a good question. Hmm. I have a few. I would say not only one, because I think depends on the stage of my career. I have a few, if I
Yeah,
may, like, sharing not only one, because
of course.
um so I would say one of the moments that I will always remember is when I won that contest called Dream Job with ESPN,
Yeah,
because that really opened the door to me, like, in major nationwide broadcasting in the US, right?
yeah,
Because it was one of those things that, when at the time, I was doing my own thing, my radio show, and it was really small, really starting, and this opportunity, and I went to a casting that was in LA. And I remember I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I was just like starting, and my brother lives in LA, so he said, like, "Hey, you can stay with me in the couch, whatever." And I went there, and it's like, I went to the casting, and there were like 800 people. It was in
God,
downtown LA, in a AMC theater, like one of the big movie theaters that has LA has in downtown. And it was all this, setup, and they had like three different things for the casting. So one was soccer knowledge, like football knowledge. So there were like iPads, and you had to respond 40 questions in like 2 minutes or something about World
right.
Cup history. Second one was like an on camera, hit. It was like, "Hey, pretend you're outside of Maracana. Mexico just won the World Cup. Go,"
Oh,
right? So it's like all
you,
impromptu.
you
And
just took your shirt off and started running around like that.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. And then the third one was an interview with one of the journalists from ESPN. It was like a back and forth discussion. And after that, you would go, and then they actually selected only 8 people out of those 800, right?
Wow.
And I was the first one who got picked. And I remember, again, this was a big deal to me because it was like really, an eye opener. Like, yeah, I can actually do this, right? So the
Yeah,
contest
yeah.
went on for like 3 months. Actually, it was like we used to go on live shows, and we had like debate, knowledge questions and trivias and all that stuff. And then ended up getting to the final and won. But again, just when I won the award, um, it was in Bristol, Connecticut, and the ESPN headquarters, and they gave me this little trophy, and I still have it. And it was like, again, even though it's only like, you know, it's a trophy, doesn't mean a lot, I guess, but it's like really for me personal because that
That's
really
everything. Yeah, yeah.
everything, right? And after that, I went to Brazil, and then ESPN hired me, and from there, like I really took off. So that's one moment. And then another moment, like professionally, I would say, um, I would say even this year, one of the grateful moments that I have is, for example, in NFL. I mentioned it before, but like interviewing Patrick Mahomes as an example, right? It's like, one of those things. Like, oh yeah, and it's believe either you like him or not, he's still like the face of the NFL nowadays, right? So
Incredible.
he's like a
Yeah, yeah.
major star, and just getting to actually talk to him for a bit, was really cool. I remember I was like looking like, yeah, I'm interviewing Patrick Mahomes, man. It's like
Yeah, it's
it's
a big one.
happening, right? Like I made it in that sense. Yeah. So that's another moment. And then third, I would say, um, I would say covering all the World Cups that I covered 3 World Cups so far, and every event to me it was always a dream to me
Mm.
covering that. And then, in terms of also like a last one, so I won't go too long. Is doing this, Super Bowl this last February. That was also the first time
Yeah,
ever for me,
that's huge.
and that was a massive. I remember when the Eagles was celebrating. I was like, just looking around at the end. I was like, oh wow, I'm here, right? How many
Yeah,
people?
yeah.
So, so that was, I would say, those moments that I will, in terms of so far with my career, that I have it.
Yeah, awesome. And you probably don't get much time or much chance at the time to kind of stand back and take moments like that in, right? So you have to almost look back on them and go, "Oh, actually, yeah, that was an incredible experience."
Yeah, no, 100%. I think sometimes you, even with the moment, like you don't have time to like, like take it all in. I guess, right?
Mm.
So, but I think now with time and with experience, now I try to do that more. Like
Yeah,
sometimes, I think now it's part of a ritual for me. Like when I'm go like on a Sunday night football game, um, before starting, I always like look around when you have all the crowd and the people,
yeah, yeah,
shouting and yelling. It's like, for me now, what I try to do is like fuel my energy. Like it's like fuel to me, like getting that energy in. So I try to do that, and it's like taking it all in like a minute. Like, okay, and then go, right. But it's like getting that excitement, because I think to this day I still I get so excited to be live in a stadium, right? It's like, again, that energy is really unique. And I would
yeah.
say in that sense, I also do a lot of studio shows, but I you cannot compare like being on site and, you know reporting from there. So,
Yeah, it's a completely different feeling. It's
mhm,
just like watching the game on TV and being in the stadium are two completely different things. You can enjoy the game, but it just doesn't feel the same.
exactly.
Um, how do you? I mean, I've got one more actually after this, but in terms of the stories now, we touched on it earlier on. There's more of a kind of narrative with storytelling now, whereas before it was just a blog, or even when I grew up, it was newspapers, right? At the
Mhm.
risk of sounding too old. How do you decide which story to cover, or what to focus on? If you look at things like human interest stories, or the connection of an individual to a particular sport or sporting moment. I'm assuming you don't have too long to decide which direction to go in. So how do you do that?
Yeah, so I think, and this goes back to the engagement question, that nowadays the audience ask for something unique, and storytelling in a way that connects you, like connects that, let's say, that athlete with the human. I think, to me, what I try to do, especially in my interviews, when I have like a one-on-one, like a sit down with NFL players, MLB, NBA, or football, I try to get that human aspect of that person outside of the player, because at the end of the day, you know the player. You know, okay,
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes throws like, I don't know, 3 touchdown passes plus 300 yards for that game. People know that there's data for that, and he knows that, and
yeah,
he knows he doesn't want to talk about it because they've been asking him like 20 times that day, right?
yeah,
So to me, it's like try to get it out of the sport and try to get to know the person. And with every, I think that that's been a good formula for me, at least with my
mm,
interviews, and also what to cover. And again, going back to the little section that I have now when I travel about, exploring the city. It's connecting that maybe casual fan that's not that engaged with, let's say, with American football or even football, and try to relate with that person. Like, again, for example, I don't know, I interviewed a lot of players, but there's like a, I don't know, this NFL player, Patrick Quinn, who like loves fishing and has like a
yeah,
fishing,
yeah,
right? And it's like, people wouldn't know that at all if you don't like do the research. But then asking that, you would see like his face, like he starts smiling. Oh yeah, that's,
yeah, yeah,
my passion. And like, dude, you're a NFL player. But like, no, this is what I want to do. Like, as soon as I, get off, some days off, I want to go fishing. So it's one of those things that I think, telling that story of the entire like human being
yeah, yeah,
really resonates more and more nowadays. And I think that that's actually talking about being unique. I think that's also how to portray, again, that athlete, that person, or even with the same with stories. I think there's, to me,
yeah,
telling that human aspect, that personal side. It's always gonna go, um, it's always going to be better. I mean, you're going to connect with more fans versus talking about specific, tactics or X's and O's. Because at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, that's important to some, like, really
yeah.
expert, fans with a lot of experience, but it's a really small niche. And if you want to get to more fans, I think that's what I try to do, at least.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think for some of us that like the nerdy kind of stats approach, and I can be guilty of that sometimes. I think there's a time and a place for that, but I think you're right. People want to know about people and what's behind the player because, like you said, we can see how good they are on the field. We know who they are as a player, but who is the guy that likes fishing or
Yeah.
supercars or whatever they're into? Where do you see? And you're probably one of the front runners in terms of engagement because of that normal guy persona and just the everyday thing that you portray. Where do you see things going from an engagement perspective going forward, because it's so fast moving now, whether it's more AI generated stuff or
Mhm.
immersive broadcasts. How do you see that going, because it's so difficult now to keep certainly the younger fans engaged for longer than 3 seconds on a scroll. I mean, I remember being taught in communications 20 odd years ago, you've got 30 seconds to make an impression. And now it's like
Mm.
you've got three
Pretty soon.
seconds to make
Yeah.
an impression. And actually, it's 1.6 or 1.7 seconds on a mobile device.
Yeah.
And
No.
I've got a 17-year-old daughter that does that and then comes back to something that she might be interested in. So, how do you see that moving going forward?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer, because I think we don't know, right? Like, again, to
Mm,
your point, like, we don't know how it's evolving, but I do think, um, how to keep them engagement, especially with the younger audiences, is something I think. And again, talking to newer generations, so with your daughter, they want to. I think now this new generation wants to connect more on the, I think, the human aspect. Like, same with work. Like, nowadays, like, new generations don't want to be stuck in the same job for like 20 years, how it used to be,
yeah,
right? They want to explore different things. They want to travel. They want to explore. They have I think their mind is way more open than our generations in that sense,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
for us, we've been experiencing that, and we are like the transition generation. I would always say,
yeah,
even media, and I think for these new generations, they want to connect with something. And I think, to your point about the scrolling, I think it really, I mean, a lot of TikTokers, and there's like studies for this, is like, the first like second basically is either like a quick impression for the kid who's like scrolling, and would, like, would catch an eye with either it's like a word or something they see visually. I
Yeah.
think going forward too, actually a little bit that definitely is going to happen is like visually interesting, because now everything is visual.
Yeah.
Even like this, podcast. At the end of the day, we have video as well, right? So, and again, it's not, some people will like to just like listen to it, but also some people want to
Mm.
like watch and look at the person. And I think
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
visually interesting is going to be more and more important. It already is, but I think it's going to be even more. And now with immersive with augmented reality, with headsets, VR headsets, and all that, I think that's also gonna keep going and keep evolving. I think now it's just too complicated again, like a big headset in your head. Like, it's cool to do it once, but then you're not gonna do it every time, right?
No.
I mean,
They
honestly,
get
it's like,
me feel dizzy. I don't know why. I don't like
yeah, you
using
get
them.
dizzy. It's like heavy in your head. Like, no, it's
Yeah.
so And again, I think the concept is cool, but I think until we get to that point that it's either you put some like regular glasses that already, I mean, there is like with Meta and
Yeah.
all these technologies, but like, and you can actually see, for example, watching TV, and you can see like your stats here, and you can actually like with your fingers like click, I want to see, again, Cristiano Ronaldo's like, how many goals he has this season. So I think that kind of stuff is going to happen for sure, and
Mm.
that's going to be also part of the broadcasting, and that can actually evolve to something really cool. Like, hey, even talking to the audience directly, say, hey, like they say, you kid at home, I know you're looking interested in those stats, like getting some prompts as well, like people are like clicking on this, and you can actually mention
Yeah, yeah.
this, right? So, or
Yeah,
even like
there's some
having that
products like that on
interaction.
YouTube.
Yeah, like
Yeah, you're right.
having the interaction,
I'm
because
not
now it's like completely separated. Like you have social
mm.
media, people will comment on Twitter, like on X, like, hey, about the broadcast, like if they're watching something, and then usually the broadcaster or the production will say like, hey, this like this tweet, like read it or blah blah. I think the future is like being completely integrated to the same
Yeah.
broadcast, right? So
Yeah, I agree. I've spoken to some startups that have got products just like that. I think that are almost ready. That are exactly that. You know, I could sit in the studio with you and almost be in the stadium and look at everything and have everything accessible that they want. It's pretty mind blowing, really. I think I might miss the days when you just go to the stadium, have a beer, and go home. I think it might have been a bit simpler then. One more, and I'll let you go back to your family and enjoying a couple of days off. Bit of fun on a personal level. One person you could interview, dead or alive, who would it be?
wow, dead or alive, that's a good one. um you know I think I would love to. Well, there's several. I mean, but yeah, just one. I would say Maradona,
Yeah,
Diego Armando Maradona. I mean, with all his craziness, but I think, and again, because yeah, a lot of people ask me why not Messi, for example. And to me, yeah, Messi is I mean, probably the greatest footballer in terms of like stats and goals and the way he plays. But to me, an interview has to be someone that can gives you more than just like talking about
mm,
like football. And I think Maradona is just such a personality that changed the game in a lot of ways. And also, I mean, he was just, I mean, we all know like his story on the outside of the pitch and in all his craziness and everything that he did. But I think also he's like a really unique and interesting character, right? That really, if we had it, if we just imagine, Maggie, if we had him in his prime now,
oh,
it would be insane. Like if you just think about
oh,
how social media would explode all the comments he would say
oh.
at the parties, and that's, but it would be right. It would be like a completely polarizing personality. But I think getting to interview him would be really cool, because it's like for me, like he really, again, we have, I would say, like at least to me, I know everybody has their different rankings, but to me there's like three main biggest footballers, right? There's Pele, obviously, Pele, who's like the king, and he was at least like a few generations ahead of the rest at the time.
Yeah.
Then you have Maradona. To me, Maradona was the footballer who really became international. Like
Hmm.
everybody knew Maradona, right?
Yeah.
He's like the first like superstar like in football. And
Yeah.
then you have Messi. I think Messi, obviously, with now with our younger generations and what he's currently playing and what he's doing, obviously he's insane. But I think again, Maradona is like that game changer of being more than a footballer, being a personality,
Yeah. I
right?
agree.
So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even growing up in England, I wasn't the usual Englishman, as you can see from the picture. He was my hero as a kid, and I remember having, VHS tapes that I would watch every day before school of Maradona. And I think he would have been on a different level today if you remember what the pitches he played on, the
yeah,
kind of defenders he played against, what they were allowed to do to him in terms of kicking him and fouling him, and you know, it's not the same game anymore. I think he would
yeah,
have been unbelievable. And like you said, the off the pitch stuff might have made for an interesting documentary or two, that's for sure.
yeah. No, totally.
Awesome. Diego, it's been a pleasure, as I knew it would, and I'm sure we could sit here talking for hours about both footballs, but we won't. And I'll say thank you for your time for this special edition of Let's Get Engaged. Enjoy your family time, and look forward to the games again on Sunday, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, a pleasure, man. That this is such a fun talk, and always happy to to talk to you on and off camera, obviously, and appreciate it, mate. It was a really good space.
No, top man, appreciate that.